But I'm delighted to welcome back to the show Ben Tish. Thank you for joining us again, Ben.
An absolute pleasure for having me on.
Now, we had you on the show in 2016 talking about Moorish, and then a couple of years ago talking about grill smoke barbecue.
Wow, yeah, okay, yes, that was, I did actually, but that was actually a book that I wrote before Moorish. So, I don't know how that came about, but anyway, yes, that's definitely one of mine.
Well, the main thing is we're talking to you today about, I believe, your latest called Mediterra.
That's right, Mediterra, which covers all of the Mediterranean, basically. It's a pan-Mediterranean book.
Fantastic. So you must include Spain then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's definitely a Spain section in there, which is one of my passions from the Saltyard days. I mean, basically, it's I wanted to. There's been books about the Mediterranean before, but I don't think they've kind of covered the whole basin, which is, it's quite broad. There's 50 odd countries on there, something like that. And whilst there's a link between the food and the environment and the culture and so on, the foods are actually quite different from country to country. So I wanted to kind of showcase that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if you think about these Mediterranean books that have been out, they usually sort of include olive oil, for example, and lemons and oranges. But you're talking about countries like Lebanon and Croatia.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. And I think today we're going to be talking, about North Africa. But I mean, they all touch on the Mediterranean basin. And you talk about olive oil. I mean, olive oil is actually quite key because all of those countries would use olive oil, but it's much more than that. It's kind of like, I think what dictates the kind of the Mediterranean kind of way of eating, if you like, across the board, is obviously seasonality. I think, it's a food culture of, food being an absolute priority and, almost sacrosanct, the food and your dinner time and your lunch time and so on. And, making the best of what you've got in terms of, it's a very cheap ingredient, making it absolutely the best that you can make it and spending time to do that. And then there's the ingredients that do link through. Obviously, there's tomatoes, there's spices and things like that. But for me, it's more about the food culture.
Yeah, and it's also a healthy food, isn't it, the Mediterranean, with the olive oil, with all the fruits and the vegetables and things.
Very, very much so. I think we've kind of all come kind of full circle to this with listening to the likes of Tim Spector, who I'm actually a fan of. Are you familiar with Tim Spector?
Yes, I do believe so.
Yes, yeah. So, but it's all these diet fads and this, that, and the other, and ultimately, it's a lovely balanced diet where you're eating a multitude of fresh ingredient, with olive oil being in there as well, but lots of vegetables, probably less fish, less meat, more vegetables, more grains, pulses and things like that, a little bit of wine, and just having a really balanced diet with freshly cooked, seasonal, healthy food is the ultimate diet, basically.
Yes,
so
indeed.
And that's the Mediterranean diet, a bit of moderation, really. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's delicious. The food in the Mediterranean across the board is delicious. So,
do you include Morocco? Because I know when I visited Morocco, there are loads of spices. They've got market stores full of different spices.
No, absolutely. And I think Morocco, North Africa, Algeria. I mean, that's kind of the recipe we're going to touch on today. But spices. So. It's a beef harry, which it's actually a soup in its kind of most basic form, and like a lot of Mediterranean dishes at their heart, a lot of them were born out of I guess more frugal times, right? And kind of that's not necessarily poverty, but when people weren't eating meat every day, you just couldn't get meat every day, so it was about making things last longer. And this kind of North African dish, it's kind of it's full of spices. It's not super hot. But as in spices like that, but it's kind of very aromatic, and traditionally it's made with lamb. And I do like that. I do like the lamb one, but it can be quite fatty because you would cook it over a long period of time. Something on the bone, like a lamb shoulder or a shank or something like that. And as it's cooking down in essentially water. To make the base of it, and then you add all your other bits and bobs, your chickpeas. It can get, lamb can have that kind of fatty feel. But they do beef ones are there, and I wanted to kind of recreate a beef one with using a beef stock, so you get that super extra boost of flavour. And a leaner beef, and so it's quicker to cook. So this is something you could really make pretty quickly. You could do this on a weeknight. It might take you an hour or so to rest, whereas a traditional one where you're cooking it a very long time on the bone probably take you a day. And there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of us don't have that time. So I wanted to do a beef one using a beef stock for flavour, and it's delicious, and it's really a vessel as well to put in other things that you want. I mean, this one in Mediterra, it's got chickpeas in, as you would probably expect from a kind of North Africa. It's a really kind of popular kind of filler. I mean, chickpeas are delicious, but they're kind of found everywhere. And then just some really good tin chickpeas. In terms of spicing, there's a bit of chili in there. There's the ras halout, which kind of varies. That's kind of a very well-used spice mix throughout Morocco, and it kind of varies from throughout North Africa, and it varies from place to place what's in it, but generally it's got kind of some sumac in it, it's got cumin in, it's got coriander in, and then kind of variations on that. Also got lentils in there as well, so you can see it's quite it's kind of, I suppose, less about the meat, really. It's more about the base. There's some kind of tomatoes in there as well, put onions in there. And I put an egg in there as well. That's kind of something that you would find. So it's kind of, you can mix up what you put in there. But yeah, there's the beef in there as well. But it's less about the beef. The beef is kind of just an addition to this beautiful, rich, hearty soup.
So that's a spicy beef Harry, not a spicy Beth Harry. It's a spicy beef Harry.
It's not a Beth Harry. No. I would love to know what a Beth Harry is.
So would I.
I'm intrigued. I might kind of research that for my next book.
Oh, that would be hilarious if we interviewed you and you actually had one in there. That would be funny. Well,
Harry.
I don't know how you find time, because I mean, I've seen you on the TV. I know that you're an author of many books, and you're also the chef director of Cubic House. That's a pub chain, is it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a collection of pubs, I guess. We have 8 pubs all in central London. They're all different, they're all kind of, I guess gastro pubs, if you want to put a name on it, food-led pubs where you can go in, you get a pint or a drink if you want and just have that. You've got a whole kind of range of beautiful bar snacks, and then there's dining rooms either adjacent or upstairs to the pubs where you can go in and have a kind of a restaurant kind of style meal. And it's great. Each site has its own head chef, and the menus vary from site to site depending on kind of what we feel works there and the location. Some of them have a Mediterranean menu, very similar to what you know from me food-wise. Some of them much more British, kind of chop house feel that you would expect from a British London pub, so we've got the Scotch eggs, we've got the sausage rolls, we've got the fish and chips, but we think we aim to do them really, really well. Kind of it's all about kind of doing the classics really well in those places, focus on seasonality and ingredients, the usual stuff. But yeah, that's a big job, and having a great team, it enables me to write books, basically. So,
Brilliant.
That's for sure, yeah.
Well, for our listeners, this latest book is called Mediterra. It's recipes from the islands and shores of the Mediterranean. It's by Ben Tish, who we're chatting to now, and we're selling it right now on our website. Ben, do you have a website as well so people can find out more?
Yeah, I do, yeah. So it's www.chefbentish.com. But the best place to find out what I'm up to and links to my publisher and all the rest of it is on Instagram. That's where I'm kind of most active. much to, that's I spend most of the time actually. So yeah, that's Chef Ben Tish as
Chef
well.
Ben Tish. Brilliant. Well, it's always a delight to chat to you. As soon as you've researched the Beth, please come back on the show.
I will indeed. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.